If you think a baseball bat is a pretty simple thing, well, you're out in left field. Making a bat means balancing things like weight and thickness. The material it's made of can make a difference. Metal bats hit the ball faster. However, the pros use wood bats because of league regulations, and even the type of wood might impact the score. Barry Bonds cracked a home run record in 2001 with a wood bat like this, one made of maple, instead of the usual white ash. They can never tell just by looking at it that a chunk of maple has what it takes to make a good bat. So they weigh it to make sure the wood is really as thick and heavy as it appears. Next, pointed prongs grip the wood and spin it, while a carbide cutter rounds it. This is a very modern lathe called an XY machine. The rounded blank goes into a room called the library, joining others on the shelf that are waiting for their chance at the big leagues. A worker selects one of the blanks to fill an order that specifies a certain model and size. He weighs it again to make sure it measures up to what the player has ordered. The blank goes onto the XY machine and spins. A computer guides the cutter as it moves on rails and carves into the blank. It whittles 2.5 centimeters of wood from the blank in order to form a handle. It takes a total of 3 passes on this cutter to make the rough shape of a baseball bat, but it's quick work, completed in just 3 minutes. Now it's time for another weighing in. The bat is substantially lighter, which is what they want. Next, he measures the end of a completed bat with a caliper. Using a square-edged scraper, he rounds the knob as the bat spins on a more traditional lathe. He measures as he cuts. With another caliper, he checks the thickness of a completed bat and compares it to the one he's just carved. Now he takes a turning tool called a skew chisel. With its pointed tip, he cuts into the bat's handle just above the knob to narrow the shoulder. Again, he measures as he cuts to make sure the diameter is just right. Using the skew chisel, he shapes the slope of the bat, repeatedly checking with the caliper to make sure it meets specifications. He slims down the handle a little more. Then he angles the top of the knob with the chisel. He shapes the rest of it with a square-end chisel. Next, he curves the bat's barrel using the same tool. This gets rid of sharp edges that would cause a ball's impact to ripple down and jar the player. Then he goes back to the knob and completes the shaping with the skew-end chisel. Because the tool is extremely sharp, he can carve very precisely. The bat is now within 14 grams of its final weight. Using an electric sander, he smooths down some of the rough edges. He switches to a finer grit to finish off the job. As he sands, he measures, because this isn't just about getting the surface smooth. The bat has to be exactly the right size and weight for the player it's being made for. Now he places the bat's knob in an end mill. A spinning carbide disc cuts around the holes made by the pointed grippers on the lathes, producing a gentle scoop. Next, a bigger disc carves into the barrel, cupping it. Some players prefer a cupped bat because it balances differently. Now he places the bat on the scale for the final weighing, and it's exactly what the player ordered. He brushes paint onto the barrel and rubs stain into the lower half of the bat. He presses decals onto the bat so it sports both the brand name and distributor. Then he stamps the model number in gold ink and tops everything off with a light coat of varnish. Now this maple bat is ready for the big leagues and some heavy hitting.
The earliest written record of a kite tells the story of a Chinese general in 206 BC who flew a kite over a wicked emperor's palace. He marked the line to measure the distance, then reeled it in. His small army then dug a tunnel into the palace courtyard, launching a surprise attack that conquered the emperor. Today's two-line kite, as the name implies, has two lines to pilot it. It can fly nearly 40 meters high. This kite is made mainly of a lightweight nylon fabric that is waterproof and fade-resistant. It's less than 1 millimeter thick, so it's reinforced with nylon mesh to reduce ripping. The kite's other components include nylon and elastic cords and straps, fittings made of leather, rubber, aluminum, and plastic, and carbon rods. The kite maker starts with a pattern made out of pressed wood. She marks out a piece of fabric and, with a few bricks to hold the fabric in place, cuts it diagonally. In sewing terms, that's called cutting on the bias. This will stretch the fabric and help it fly. Next, she cuts more pieces of fabric, this time in a different color. This kite has 8 fabric parts that fit together like a puzzle to create a 2.5-meter wingspan. The kite's left and right sides are mirror images, so there are only 4 different shapes to cut. They range in length from 25 centimeters to 1.2 meters. From start to finish, it takes one worker about 2 hours to make this model called the Dragonfly. First, the kite maker sews the longest part, called the belly, to the other parts. She double stitches with heavy-duty nylon thread to help the kite withstand winds of up to 35 kilometers an hour. She makes tiny incisions along the belly's curved edge so she can fold it and sew in what's called tension line. Tension line is a type of nylon cord she'll sew into all the seams of the kite's lower sections. It'll give the kite some structure and help keep it rigid while airborne. The kite maker secures each line with a knot, which can later be loosened or tightened to adjust the kite's overall tension. The kite maker uses straps made of very durable yet flexible plastic to line the middle and the edges of the wings. The straps strengthen the kite, enabling it to survive crashes into trees and rocks. After all, what goes up must come down. Next, the kite maker sews a piece of leather called a fitting onto the plastic strap. It's made of leather to protect the kite's structural joints, such as the nose of the kite. It gets a leather patch as well. The kite maker uses a serrated saw to cut the 10 carbon rods to size. They're 6 millimeters in diameter and range in length from 18 to 81.5 centimeters. They form the kite's skeleton, and like bones, they're the most likely part of the kite to break in an accident. But if they do break, it's easy to replace them. A variety of molded plastic, rubber, and aluminum fittings serve a dual purpose. They join the rods together and keep them from falling out of their sleeves. Now the kite maker attaches a nylon cord called a bridle to the fitting that joins the rods on the wing's leading edge. The bridle is the kite's rudder, steering the kite to the left or right. The bridle comes off easily if you need to replace the rods. The kite maker now attaches tension lines to 2 plastic components called arrows. They're located at the kite's wingtips. She ties elastic bungee cords through the arrows to hold the tension lines in place. This makes all the fabric parts taut enough to fly. Next, she attaches the bridle to the center rod, the spine of the kite. She inserts the rod into its protective leather pouch at the nose. She inserts other rods into both sides of the wing. These give the wing its curved aerodynamic shape and help the kite stay aloft. Finally, additional rods under the wing provide more structure and support. These rods spread the kite and help keep it open. In the mood for a sky-high experience? For $250, you can buy a handmade model like this one and go fly a kite.